Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. As I said, I will try from time to time to read certain passages from certain books that I think were influential and to me, and I think they are very important. And today I will continue with the reading of the Propaganda book that I started yesterday from 1928, written by Edward Bernays. This was the guy who preceded Goebbels and any other propagandist. This guy was the first one who put on the paper how you propagandize people, how you change their opinions in a kind of intellectual way. So I'm going to go to the chapter number. Let me get my goggles. I'm old and my skin is cold. Chapter 11, The Mechanics of Propaganda. And we read here at page number 60. It goes like this. The newspaper, remember 1928, right? The newspaper, of course, remains always a primary medium for the transmission of opinions and ideas. In other words, for propaganda. Now you imagine in 1928, it was the newspaper. Nowadays we have so many other media available to push the propaganda with symbols and cliches and all that. So let's move on with this reading here, and it goes like this. The Times editors, Times, the newspaper from England, Great Britain, the Times editors determine with complete independence what is and what is not news. This is what happens now with, I think, Associated Press. Associated Press dictates, it gets the news and spreads it to the other news outlets, and they determine what is news and what is not news. So if you don't hear about an event, it doesn't mean that that doesn't exist. It exists, but you don't. Some people determine for you not to know about it because they say that's not important. We miss so much news. We miss it because other people, editors, and not only editors, higher ups, they determine what is news and what is not news. It was a guy in Vienna in 1910s and before that, who said, it was the first thing I read. I got his book right here, just so you know, and I will not read out of that. I don't want to go to prison. Just kidding. You never know nowadays. He said that he realized in Vienna that these guys in the newspapers business, they could make a subject the most important in a nation in 1 week, and the most important issue of the country could make it disappear. The same thing he said, you can make out of respectable people in 1 week being the most despicable people, and average people, mediocre people, make them the most important people in the country if the mass media wanted. That was the power of mass media or the newspaper then. Remember how many newspapers were then? 5, 3, 4. Remember, until the internet started going, how many media outlets we had? How many conglomerates? 3.5, 4. Remember, you have, oh my God, there's so many names of newspapers. Those newspapers are actually owned by the big newspaper companies. So let's say you say, well, CNBC, all right, so let's say Fox News. Fox News owns Miami Herald, Times of Chincasa, Picapaca, Poco Poco, and all those things. Do you think they will say something else that the Fox News says? No. And they have all these things all over the world. There are companies in Romania, the television companies, that are owned by CNN or part of the CNN conglomerate. Do you think they will say something else than the CNN says in the United States? No, they will follow the party line. And you're going to hear, oh my God, there's so many names, so many different news outlets, where they're not actually, independent or not. I am independent. I can say kind of almost whatever I want, but I still get censored if they decide to, if I say something that they don't like, they can take care of stuff, and they can do with everybody else. So again, this YouTube depends on what? Disney or whatever it's right now they're associated with. Whatever they say, do you think these guys are going to allow anything critical? Yes, here and there, but if the shit hits the fan, then you're going to see where censorship kicks in. So it says here, the Times editors determine with complete independence what is and what is not news. They brook not censorship. They are not influenced by any external pressure, nor swayed by any values of expediency, or opportunism. The conscious editors on every newspaper realizes that his obligation to the public is news. The fact of its accomplishment makes it news. Well, I don't know. Once they have an agenda, you can get out of that agenda. They know which side of the bread it's buttered, or whatever that expression is. The American motion picture is the greatest unconscious carrier of propaganda in the world today. Did you hear? 1928. And we're in what? 2022. These guys were aware of this a century already. And if you go around and you tell them that, these fucking weasels, they say, no, we trust the media. Really? Look what this guy says. The American motion picture is the greatest unconscious carrier of propaganda in the world today. It is a great distributor of ideas and opinions. 1928. There is a story that a great financier discharged a partner because he had divorced his wife. And says, but what, asked the partner, have my private affairs to have to do with the banking business, he asked. And this is what the other guy answered. If you are not capable of managing your own life, was the reply, then people will certainly believe that you are not capable of managing their money. So that is like, let's say you have a divorced, I'm not 100% obviously subscribing to this attitude, but I will go deeper to explain more. If you're incapable of taking care of your life and you're a drunk and you're a drug addict, how can I let you be over there and straighten out my life when you don't have your life straightened out? What is most important for you? In the communist times in Romania, people who would divorce, they would not have access to managerial position or leadership position. It was very rare. They would be discarded. That would be a stigma because of this kind of attitude. They say, well, you divorced, that means you're not capable of being consistent. You're not a upstanding individual in the society. You're not an example. And they would kind of shy away from people who were divorced or having children out of the wedlock. That was my God, it was like you're a whore or something. Well, they knew something we didn't, but it's not only the communists. But imagine that you have a guy who's preaching you to not drink alcohol or don't abuse drugs, and he's a drug addict. You don't have any credibility to tell me that. And even if they will say, they will preach you to say, hey, you have to be, self-restraint, show self-discipline, self-restraint, and so on, and he's a drug addict. You have no authority anymore. Like a person who's a loser in life and is going to give you advice what house to buy and how to manage your money. Just a second, you don't have anything under your belt to prove. So anyway, remember, this is a 1928 book, and that is the beginning of the beginning. And then it was Joseph Goebbels, right, the Minister of Propaganda under the German government in between 1933 to 1945, and he used the same kind of things. He just used psychology. After all, he was a doctor, Not a medical doctor, but he was a PhD. So be careful. When you hear someone that is very educated in the government, just think of Goebbels. Even Mussolini had a PhD, I think. He was, just look for it. So I would be very weary. And then when they say, well, poor the little guys with disabilities. Well, Stalin had disabilities. The other criminal, what's his name? Criminal, not criminal, but communist. What? Another communist. Anyway, Roosevelt was a physically handicapped. So why are we going to just infer that, oh, people with handicapped or people with PhDs are criminals? No, but they do it when it's convenient to them in certain instances. So anyway, just think about this book. It's a very good book to read. It's very short, about 63 pages. You can read it in 2 hours or so, an hour and a half. You really want to get deeper into that. And then I'm going to get another book right here somewhere, the pink one, and it's that's a fantastic book. I think that's one of my favorite books. It's called Propaganda by Jacques Ellul, written in the 1960s by this French intellectual. I underlined almost each and every line over there in that book. I read it like 50 fucking times. That's a good book. Not expensive, but and nowadays what's really of intellectual value has no value for these guys in money. Prostitution, drugs, and whorish behavior have value nowadays. You know what I mean? Just watch Oscars or whatever. They have a Grammys awards. That's quality, which is, what do you want? Milton down, Hemingway down, Shakespeare down, Maya Angelou up. Really? Just bother and waste your time reading some Maya Angelou and see the fucking quality of that person. Or if you want, read the other weasel. What's his name? Elie Wiesel. Weasel. Black Knights or whatever. Light Black Knights or whatever they were called. With his fucking Holocaust, whatever things. Read that. And they got the Nobel Prize for literature. Read it. And tell me that compared with Shakespeare. And you tell me the quality of writing. Pfft, okay. So anyway, value is value, money is money. They don't always go together. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.